Thank you so much for joining me. This is really a great start, and you came to the right place if you're wanting to build up your social media presence, whether it's for your band or your art project or your small business, even. A lot of these techniques work quite well, and we're going to talk about a number of different ways and tips. And I think what I'm going to do is I wrote a list here of 12 or 13 tips that I think that are some of the most important things that you can do on social media. And I'm just going to kind of discuss those while we actually kind of go on social media and look at some stuff. Uh, so yeah, let's start with saying that social media is all about content creation. Content creation is probably, the most important thing that you can say that you do when you do social media, because that's the content that you're putting out to your audience. And when I think about content, I think about like a holy trinity of content. And that holy trinity is photography, and graphic design, and video. Those are generally the three things that you're going to be sharing. And I guess if you want to turn it into, the holy square, it would be your words, it would be your language, the captions, the context that you give, the imagery that you're providing to people. So learning about how to produce quality content, and that's not necessarily what this is going to be completely about, because I'm not going to teach you a photography lesson or graphic design school or videography. But what I will say is that getting yourself oriented with those three things, even on a very basic level, is going to help you create much better content. And there are a lot of tools out there. For the people of the world who are not graphic designers, who are not photographers or videographers, there are a lot of really great tools that are available to people like yourselves. And what we're going to do is talk about a few of those tools right now. For graphic design, there's Canva. It basically sets you up some really basic graphic design templates that you can plug your words or logos or imagery into and create a diverse array of new imagery for you to share with your audience on a regular basis. In terms of photography, and I'll go into a share screen. If you really want to get into photography, and what I would call certainly a value to you would getting yourself a digital SLR camera, which is a single reflex camera. I will put this in here and I'll just bring up an image of them. They look scarier than they really are. They're very easy to learn, and if you're willing to put a few hours in, you can really learn how to take some really beautiful photographs using these types of cameras. The prices obviously scale quite a bit, from $479 on a low end all the way up to $4,000 here. But even this on the lowest end at $500 is going to create substantially better looking photography than you're going to be able to get on your phone. Phones are great, but there's only so much that they can do. They've been built to do so many different things for you, and they're great. But the cameras that they have are somewhat limited. And the options of lenses, because as good as your camera is, it really comes down to the lens. The options of lenses, of course, are also quite limited. It's just the built-in lens that you have. I'm going to talk about a workaround for that momentarily, but you may have one of these cameras in your house. What I've found is that a lot of families buy these and don't get the gumption to actually learn how to use it. And lots of households have a nicer, higher end camera that is hiding in a box somewhere. So you may have a family member who owns one of these that isn't using them. And learning them, I can tell you, of course, the more you do something, the more you'll learn from it. But within 4 or 5 hours of watching some basic tutorials on YouTube, And same goes for graphic design. If you were using something like Photoshop, a few hours of self-learning, and the tools are vast. And all you have to do is Google search, Photoshop tutorials, graphic design tutorials, photography tutorials, videography tutorials, and tons of great content will come up teaching you how to use these type of devices. Maybe you don't want to go that way. Maybe you want to stick with your phone. Maybe you don't have a budget to upgrade. There's a really great company that I have shopped with before and used called Moment. And Moment is a really great camera company. What they do is they create pretty high-end lenses, camera lenses for your phone, and cases to fit pretty much any phone on the market so that you can house their lenses. And these lenses will go a long way to make your phone photography look a lot better, give you a wider angle. The prices vary here. They're about $100 each. But they can go a long way to make your phone content a little more diverse and look a little bit better than it would just out of the phone. So I do recommend looking into something like this if you didn't want to go in the direction of a higher end camera. But when you get these tools, when you start to learn how to use them, you're giving yourself a skill set that you will be able to use to promote every aspect of your project. If you're somebody who makes art and products, now you can take high quality photos of your work so that you can make prints. If you can do graphic design, and let's say you are a musician, you can diversify your content stream to give them a little bit more than just always photos. And that's really my next point, is something that Wu-Tang said. Any Wu-Tang fans here, is Wu-Tang said, diversify your bonds. And what that basically means is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't only share one type of content with people. The best way to gain traction and to keep people's interest and attention is definitely to diversify the type of content that you're sharing with them. So if you are only ever sharing photos from a certain angle, from a certain perspective, generally the content is always the same. Maybe it's you holding your guitar as a musician, or maybe you only take photos of your artworks front on. You need to diversify, even if it's just photography. Let's get a bird's eye view. Let's get a 1/3 angle. Let's show our products and what we do from different perspectives. Let's get a long shot from a distance. Let's get a real hyper close-up of what you're doing. But knowing all three of these things, and at least having a basic understanding of photography, graphic design, and videography are going to go a really long way for you. And, having a high quality phone, whether it's Android or iPhone, that is a huge help and a basic tool that you're going to want to use to do all of your social media. So something about social media that you have to understand as well is that for every platform, there is a preferred format. On Instagram, square-shaped images work best. On Facebook, there are a myriad of different sizes and scales of imagery that are going to work better for you. So I'll go back into the screen sharing here onto my desktop, and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. And let's go back to Facebook here. Your event page banner. Your event page banner is a different scale than, let's say, I'll just go to my home page and click through on one of my art projects. Your event page banner is a different size than your cover page banner. There is no one single work all for your content, especially on Facebook. So an important thing to do is to really give yourself an understanding. And it's as quick as hopping on Google and doing some searching. And the thing about Facebook especially is that these things change all the time. They don't seem to go more than maybe a year or so without changing the format or scaling of event page banners, profile pictures, profile banners. And you want to make sure that you're sizing them correctly. So let's just say Facebook event banner size. Okay, so here we are. And you're gonna, right now, the preferred is 1920 by 1005. We'll click through on some images here to give you a better idea. So you see here, this gives you a good idea, is that you don't want to go over the edges, right? If this is all that people can see, you want to size your images graphically so that none of your information gets lost. You'll notice when I click through here, let's go back to our event page. I'll click through on my profile, is probably the fastest way to get into it. But we notice that none of our information is getting cut off or lost. The last thing you want to do is put work into a graphic design that people aren't going to fully see or be able to engage with. So be aware of that. Before you start designing something, before you start resizing your photography and cropping them, take a look. What are the most ideal sizes for what you're trying to execute at the moment? And even small things like this can go a really long way. So understand what you're doing. The scale, let's say you're going to do some graphic design for your Instagram page, and that you wanted to create some graphic design for your stories. You would want to, so we're going to go back here. I will switch back into screen mode, and we'll search that as well. It's generally, your screen size, but we go Instagram, Instagram story size, story aspect ratio. So this is 1080 by 1920, and it's vertical. If you were filming videos for Instagram, you would want it to be vertical, whereas let's say you were filming a video for YouTube, you'd want it to be a widescreen. The aspect ratio is different. You want to be able to fill as much of the screen as you can. That's your real estate. You own that space, and you don't want to have a bunch of, right now, if the screen was just, a narrow bar and not the full view, you wouldn't be able to see my hands boxing that out for you. You wouldn't get that human gesturing. So you definitely want to know your scale and your scope. The next thing I'll talk about is creating an aesthetic. Is that you want to create kind of a visual vibe for your feeds. Maybe there is a colorway. Maybe you want to watermark your imagery with your logo so that no matter where it gets shared, you have your logo right in the middle at the bottom right corner, tucked in there with your website, so that if someone saves the picture and puts it on their desktop, that anyone who sees it sees that you're the person who created it. Maybe you have something that ties into your brand specifically, that tailors itself well to creating that aesthetic. So what I would say is that as you learn how to do your photography a little bit better, your graphic design, come up with colors that you like, come up with shapes that you like, create a visual aesthetic and vibe for the content that you're creating, so that when people are scrolling through endlessly through their feed, that they can maybe pull you out of the mix. So creating aesthetic is a really important part of what you're doing as an artist or a musician especially. You have these tools at your fingertips. You are creating very regularly. And if you feel starved for the ability to make content, then just think about what you're working on. I was speaking with my friend James Owell, who's actually in this Zoom meeting right now. He put out a record recently. I said, write down your lyrics by hand. Share those as images. Um, you can take pictures of the gear that you used to create your record. You can do a time-lapse video. And the beautiful thing about having iPhones and Androids is that a lot of these really difficult photography tricks that you used to have to go to school like I did to learn on a traditional camera are now just the flip of a button. So the opportunity to create some really interesting and diverse content is right in front of you, and it's as big as your imagination is. It might seem boring, but maybe it takes you 30 minutes to set up your gear. I'm going in a music direction again. Maybe it takes you 30 minutes for the band to set up their gear. Maybe you set up your iPhone in the corner of the room to record a time-lapse video of everyone arriving, setting up their gear, greeting each other, and the caption is getting ready for practice or writing some new songs tonight. There's always an interesting way to take what you're doing and what may seem mundane to you, and create it and turn it into something that is interesting for those who have followed your page to consume your content. Another thing that is really important to understand, and I think it's probably the biggest leap for most people when they're doing their social media, is you have to leave your feelings of self-consciousness at the door. You really have to forget about worrying about, especially, and I do this type of work for people professionally, and I oftentimes see clients say, well, we didn't get that many likes on that last picture, or nobody commented on this one. And it's really easy to get down on yourself, and it's really easy to feel like, well, is anyone even really listening? You really have to leave those feelings at the door. The more you do something, the better you're gonna get at it. And the more you create content and share content, the more engaging it's going to become to your audience. So don't be afraid or don't be disappointed that your post didn't get very many likes. You're just starting out. If you had tens and tens of thousands of fans, I very much doubt that you'd be sitting in a webinar like this. So you're at the start of your project. You are climbing the ladder, and you should never be self-conscious about putting your content out there. And the next part of that is that consistency is key. In a perfect world, you would be engaging with these people on a daily basis. These people, I mean, the people who follow your Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of your pages. Oftentimes I have clients ask me, well, how much should we be posting? Should we be posting once a day? Should we be posting once a week? Should we be posting 10 times a day? What I would say is post as much as your audience is willing to consume. If you're posting once a day and you're getting lots and lots of likes and lots of engagement, well, then maybe you've got room and you have interested enough fans to post twice a day. Maybe you're not getting a lot of engagement. Maybe you don't have as much going on at the moment. Maybe you only check in every 2 to 3 days. The approach that you take is up to you, but consistency is everything. And if somebody is following you and interested in your work, I would say posting, every 24 to 48 hours at a minimum is never a bad idea. Remind them that you're there. Remind them that they can check out your work, that they can listen to your records, that they can buy works of art from your website or e-commerce page. It never hurts to remind folks that you do this. And as you create more content and as you create content consistently, it helps you navigate the algorithm. And you may hear the word algorithm. It's a sense, like a fancy term for how the computer systems that run Instagram and Facebook decide what information gets out into the world and how many people really see it. So if you can stay consistent, then the algorithm, and people are following you consistently, the algorithm will start to play in your favor a little bit. If you're posting consistently at 10 in the morning and lots of people are digesting that content at 10 in the morning, then I would say, posting in that time range on a daily basis is not necessarily a bad idea. And what I'll say is that there are a lot of tools available to you within Facebook and Instagram. And if you haven't switched your accounts over, most of these systems now offer you the ability to present yourself as a business as opposed to a personal account. So make sure you're switching all of your social media accounts over to business accounts. This will give you the ability to advertise, to buy ads through Facebook, Instagram, and these other, the number of social media platforms out there is seemingly endless, but there are, let's say 10 big ones. And you want to make sure you're optimizing that space so that you can take advantage of it when you're ready to. So another thing about content, I think that's really important, is to make it personal. Let people get to know you. A lot of times they're not just following you because they like your art, they're a fan of you. A lot of the times when we're starting out our Facebook and Instagrams for our brands, our first fans and followers are our friends and family. So don't be afraid to make it personal. Let people get to know you. Tell them a little bit about yourself, who you are, who the members of your project are, what your dream is for this project, the things you've done in the past. Tell your story and find your voice. So find your tone, find what makes you unique, and start to contextualize yourself out against everyone else who's engaging on social media and trying to get eyes and trying to get interest. What makes you different from everyone else? What have you done? What are you hoping to do? What are your aspirations? People who are interested in your work are interested in hearing about these things. So don't be afraid to open up a bit and let people know what you have to offer and what you've done. Don't be afraid to let people look behind the scenes. Show them your process. Show them your workspace. Show them your dog or cat who's sitting on your lap while you're drawing or songwriting all night, or sewing all night if you're a fashionista. Whatever project it is that you do, it's not just your end product that people want to see. They want to see the work that went into it. And this can go a long way for you in terms of creating value for people. You're trying to convince people to, to buy something off of you. And I think this is a lot of us when we want a larger social media audience, especially for our bands or our art projects or our small businesses, is that the hope is that with a larger audience, we'll have more eyes, we'll have more traction, we'll have more opportunity to make a sale. Not that it's all just about money, but we are, and I think whether you're in the position now or not, generally for us creative types and small business owners, side hustlers, we want to be able to do what we're doing for a living. And many of us, myself included, don't yet do that. So the bigger your audience is, the more potential that you have to create a sale. And these steps that we're talking about are definitely steps that you can take to engage with people on a greater scale to grow your audience and hopefully make those sales come in. The other part of engaging with, when we're talking about tone and finding your voice with people, is starting a conversation. So of course, we're trying to get people to listen to our records. We're trying to get them to look at our art. We're trying to get them to buy our products or items that we're making. As important as that is, it can't be your only focus. Because if somebody's beating you over the head constantly, buy this, buy this, buy this, it gets old. And people say, well, I know I can buy it. So show them something else. Start a conversation. Ask them a question. What's your favorite piece that we made in the last week? What do you think the next drawing I should do is? I've seen a lot of people, artists, visual artists, do doodle sessions where they just set up their camera, looking at their drawing pad, and they live stream and let people say, draw a cactus, draw a car, draw a sun, draw a lion, and they sit there and doodle. Create interesting ways to be able to engage with your audience. Ask them questions, find out what they're interested in and what they like, and you can better tailor the content that you're creating with the knowledge of what they enjoy. You can better tailor your content to satisfy them and to continue to engage with them. So don't be afraid to start a conversation or to ask a question or to comment on maybe what's happening in the world. Don't feel like your brand or your art project has to be an island. At the end of the day, there's real human beings with real feelings and thoughts behind your art, behind your music. And your fans and followers may be interested to know what you think about what's going on at the world, whether it's politics or pop culture or whatever may be in the zeitgeist. And the zeitgeist is just whatever's trending, whatever's popular in culture right now. And they peak up and down very quickly like this, but play into that. And I do that for clients often. It seems like every other week there's some sort of funny meme, or over the last summer it was making yourself look old. So maybe you take a picture of the band and make the band look old. Maybe you come up with some funny way to engage with what's happening in the zeitgeist. You put your own spin on it and capture people's attention based on what is attracting the attention of the general masses at the time. You're not selling out to pop culture by doing that. You're having fun with it, and you're creating something engaging and current that people can think about, talk about, laugh at, any number of different things. And that's an important thing too, is don't be afraid to joke around. Not everything has to be super serious all the time. Again, you're a real human being, and the more that you can humanize your content, I think the more people can find a better way to connect with it, right? Is that, you're not just a collection of paintings or a collection of songs or records or so on and so forth. There's a real human being behind this. Don't be afraid to show them your face. Don't be afraid to set up a live video stream and just say hello to your audience. Share your content to your personal streams. Separate yourself from your project. If you have a Facebook page that is for your personal self, and that's where all your friends are, make sure that you're making a like page for people, a business page for people to follow. The big problem with social media is that people oftentimes think that because you're on the internet, that means that you're out there and you're available to everyone and you're in the world's most public place. But oftentimes, especially in a smaller community like Windsor, the circles of people who know each other start to overlap in a very big way. It's not a circle of people here and here and here and here that you're reaching out to. It's actually circles that are intertwined because people have mutual friends. There's only so many people on your friends list, whereas having a like page allows you to reach out to a greater world and laser focus on your content and on your brand and what it is, the way the brand looks at this idea, the way that your art project responds to the world at large might be a little bit different than the way that you personally do it. If you're on Instagram, I would say make sure that you have a page specifically for your music apart from yourself personally, because some people on your personal page didn't come there to follow your art content. They came there for, to stay in touch and to, to be your friend. Um, if you have a laser focused Instagram page that is specifically for your band or art project, that is going to make it just a consistent stream of content that leads back to what you create and what you do. And then the great thing about that is, doesn't mean you can't leverage your personal account to draw more people towards um, your brand or your art project. Let's share a screen again here. I'm going to go back onto the desktop, and I'm just going to click through a couple things on Facebook in terms of doing some quick, easy optimization, getting people on board. And I keep clicking through to this one. This is an art project that I'm starting, and so I've been a little quiet and I don't have many followers, and that's fine. I don't feel too bad about it because I haven't really launched it yet. But I'll click through here just on invite friends. It's glitching out right now, but make sure that you're going here. Make sure that when you go to your page, that you click on invite friends, and the people who show up at your shows and the people who are on your friends list personally, that you are actually inviting them to be a part of what you do online. And the same thing goes for your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube. If you have an email list, and that's another thing, starting an email list is as easy as going to MailChimp.com. You can set up a free account. It's a great platform. There's a free level and there are paid levels. And so if you're getting into trying to sell your stuff and trying to build an audience, having an email list is great. And MailChimp is really great because it's free. So start building those lists. Start building your audience from the people you know want to support you. Don't be afraid to invite them there. Don't be afraid to run a contest. And you say, like our page, share this post, and we'll give you a free art print. We'll give you a free this or that. Then take that content and share it to your personal pages so that when people click on it, they're getting driven back to your official page, not your personal page. Seen people take an opposite approach where they share it on their personal page, but they don't and then share it back to their band page or their art page. That's not a good approach. You want all your roads to lead back to the official source for information. Your official source for information is your official website, your official social media pages. And I guess I'll touch on that briefly, is websites. And I would say in today's world, I think maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, everybody had to have their own website. I don't really see that as the case anymore. Social media has kind of replaced websites in a lot of ways. People will oftentimes search for you on Facebook before they will search for you on Google. What I would say is to buy your URL. So to buy your domain name, your website is pretty easy. There's a million sites that do it, but come up with a simple domain, something that's clean. And I would say domain names. So find a name for your brand that you want to do, buy your domain, but before you buy your domain, do some research. You're going to want to make sure that that nobody else is using it already. And you're going to want to make things cross over as best as possible. I'm just looking here at who's in the group here. Bobby Sprout. I mean, if bobbysproutmusic.com is available, you want it. And if .ca is available, you want that too. And then in a perfect world, Instagram would also be Bobby Sprout Music. And your Facebook page URL would also be Bobby Sprout Music. By lining everything up, it makes it a lot easier and cleaner to present your idea. So for me, my page, Tragic Fate, is at Tragic Fate Co. I wanted it to be just Tragic Fate, but I did my research beforehand, and just Tragic Fate was taken on both Instagram and Facebook. So they weren't available to me, unfortunately. So I had to come up with something, and I had to get it close enough to what my website it is so that people can find it quickly and easily. The closest one was Tragic Fate Co., close enough to my website, which is tragic-fate.com. You're doing the best that you can, but you want to make it easy for people to find you. If your Instagram is at Bobby Sprout Music Windsor and your Facebook is at Bobby Sprout, then there's a somewhat of a disconnect there. It's much easier for you to just show a Facebook logo, a Twitter logo, an Instagram logo with one at Bobby Sprout Music underneath of it, instead of saying, if you want to find me on Facebook, you got to look here, you got to remember this URL. If you want to find me here, you got to remember this URL. It can become somewhat tiresome and somewhat more difficult for your audience to find you amidst this sea of other content creators. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is don't fake it. And what I mean by that is that you may have seen them approach you before on your Facebook page or your Instagram. You may see these things advertised out in the wide world of the internet. They're called bots. And what you can do is you can employ the use of a bot on your website, on your email list, on your Instagram and Facebook to engage with audiences for you. I see a real problem with employing these methods because what they do is they create a disparity between your understanding of what your audience is and what this bot has created for you. A lot of these things essentially just go after fake followers. So other bot accounts that aren't real human beings who aren't actually going to click through on your page, comment on things, or be a part of what you're actually doing. So I see a lot of people, I got I paid $100 or $200 and now I have 5,000 Instagram followers. The unfortunate thing about that is that those 5,000 Instagram followers aren't real. They didn't actually click through on your website. They're not going to buy your painting. They're not going to listen to your record on Spotify. They are not real engaged audience. What I always advise and have found quite a bit of success with for all sorts of different types of art projects and businesses is organic growth. Let's engage with people in a real way. Let's let our page grow at a rate that it should. So if someone lands on your page and you have 5,000 followers and your most recent post or video or whatever content you put out only has 10 likes, you're kind of, it doesn't legitimize you in any sort of way. For people like myself, and I think just the general viewer, it starts to become very apparent and obvious that this isn't legitimate, this isn't real. And I think at a certain point, it may make people take you a little bit less seriously. What I think is most important is to build up an organic audience and engage with them. So how do we do that? How do we build up an organic audience? Well, let's share our screen here. And like I said, on Facebook, you can go through and start inviting friends. You can click through, and the people who you think are legitimately interested in the projects that you're creating and the art you're creating, inviting them personally. You can share your content back to your personal streams. But one of my favorite things to do, and you can do this on a handful of different accounts, and you can do this on Facebook as well, is start going out and engaging with people outside of your bubble. So we all have our friends list, but maybe we're a math rock band. So I'm going to look up math rock, and then I'm going to go over here to groups, and I'm just going to look around a little bit and check here. Math rock exchange, private group, 23,000 members. Okay, that's not bad. If I was in a math rock band, I would be pretty interested in joining this group. Actually, math rock, instrumental, post rock. Okay, I'm in a band. And now I can join this group, and I'm going to join this group as learning my instrumental post rock band. And now as learning, I can start engaging with this group. And there are 23,000 people who are interested in the type of music that I make that I can now engage with as my page. So what I'll do is, well, I'm waiting for them to approve me. But once I get approved to join this group, or my band gets approved to join this group, what I'm going to do is post in here, hey, check out my band. Here's a link to our Bandcamp page. Here's a link to our Facebook page. This is a great way to spread your message to new people. And this is just the first group that I click through on. I mean, it's seemingly endless, the number of groups that are out there. And trust me, there is a group for pretty much anything and everything out there. There's groups for fan groups for bands. There's groups for just in Windsor. We'll say Windsor art. And we'll click back into groups again. What do we got here? Windsor Artist Network. Let's pop in here for a moment and see what's going on in the Windsor Artist Network. This would be a good place to share on a local level what you're doing artistically. This is where you can find what people are doing on a local level. And you can see here, there are many people from the arts community here in Windsor taking advantage of this page. I believe I actually had posted this webinar to this page as well. So this is a great way to start engaging with people who you don't know, who aren't already a part of your friends list. And that's really what you want to be able to do. Now we're going to continue on about fishing and going fishing. Let's share the screen again, but let's hop on Instagram and show you how you can do some Instagram fishing. So my phone is on now. It should come up momentarily. Zoom. So, okay, so there's my cat. And I'm gonna go on to my Instagram. There's Puppy Teeth with his F Cops art. I'm on my Tragic Fate page again. One of my favorite things about Instagram is that it is really easy to go fishing to find people. So you want to go onto your search page here. And what you can do on your search page is you can literally just start looking for people. So I'm going to start looking for people in Windsor. So I'm typing in Windsor, and then I'm going to click over here to places. So there's Windsor, Ontario, and there's lots of places in Windsor, Ontario. But let's just go to the city at large. So here we go. There's top posts, mostly, you know, good-looking people or whatever. But let's go into the recent posts. Let's go into who's active right now. So this is called geotagging. When you post a photo, let's say I was posting that photo there, this video of it raining. I'm just going to click through here. When you go to add location, When I tap Windsor, Ontario there, and it adds Windsor, Ontario, then when people search that geotag, I'm going to cancel, discard this. But when people search that geotag, this is where it comes up in this feed. So essentially anybody who clicks through on Windsor as a location will find your image somewhere in here. And I mean, there's anything and everything in here. But the one thing that I know for sure is that these people live in Windsor. The other thing that I know for sure is that people love to have their photos liked. People love to be engaged with on Instagram. They didn't start a public Instagram profile because they didn't want anyone to like their pictures. And so what you can do, I'm just on this person's, now I do not know this person, Gwen Labert 34, but I am going to like their picture and I am going to comment, a tree fell on their garage. Holy shit. Hope everyone's okay. Is okay. And maybe I'll make it a little bit more branded. Glad you didn't face a tragic fate. That's the name of the brand, right? Exclamation mark. And then maybe I'll make sure that it's playful. So there's a winky face. But this person, whoever they are, Gwen Labert, just got a personal advertisement in their notifications feed that I liked their picture and commented on their picture. They, in turn, will say, tragic fate, what is that? And they may or may not click through on my profile, land here and see some of my creations and art stuff, click through on my website, and maybe follow me if they enjoy my comment. But basically, you can do this with anyone, and you can find people, whether it's just liking somebody's post or making a comment. I mean, how much you decide to engage with them is up to you. But this is how you go fishing. And I would compare, I mean, you can go fishing in a lot of different ways. Here, I'll stop the screening. I'll stop the share here so that you can see me again. When I talk about going fishing, I mean, you can sit at the end of the dock. That's just posting photos on your Instagram page, hoping that people are going to randomly happen upon your Instagram page. That's sitting on the dock, right? Guy who sits on the dock, or girl who sits on the dock, or any person who's fishing, they're going to catch maybe a few fish. Good for you. But the person who hops in a motorboat and uses radar detectors and has, depth charge grenades to bring the fish to the surface, they're going to catch more. And this is essentially that approach. Let's go back into the screen and just show you how you can do this on a few different levels. So I am going to, because I'm an art brand, I'm going to delineate a little bit further than just Windsor. I'm going to go to Art Gallery of Windsor, because what I know for sure is that the people who posted pictures geotagged as the Art Gallery of Windsor, they like art or have some connection to art. So the odds of someone who posted a picture from the Art Gallery of Windsor being interested in my art brand is somewhat higher than just Gwen Labert, who had the tree fall on her garage. So I'm going to go through here, and here we go. I'm just going to start liking. I'm just going to start liking some people's pictures. And it's really that simple. But all of these people are going to get a notification, which is essentially better than like a billboard. It's like a personal billboard in their hand saying, look at this, what is it? So what other ways can we do that? Well, we can go into tags. Windsor, there are a lot of Windsors in the world. So let's go Windsor, Ontario, 247,000 posts. So let's click through on this hashtag. So if you don't know how hashtag work, they take public photos that are hashtagged with whatever. This one is Windsor, Ontario. You see they're related. YQG, Guelph, Barrie, Lethbridge, you know. So we can go through here, the hashtag. Again, I know anybody who posted on here, especially recently, as Windsor, Ontario as the hashtag, is from Windsor, Ontario, and may be able to come support my next performance or buy some art from me at my next art show, so on and so forth. So that's hashtagging. So again, when you're hashtagging, that's just in the caption of your post, right? So let's say we were going to make a post with a rainstorm. Let's just go through our caption here and we'll just say hailstorm. So doing some hashtag research. So now hailstorm has 179,000 posts. Hailstorms only has 5,000. Like, you can use this to give you an idea of how much people are engaging with a hashtag. I would lean towards just hailstorm as opposed to any of these other ones, just because there's not really that much going on in them, whereas there's a lot going on in hailstorm, you know? And I would say not to over hashtag your stuff because it can look a little bit tacky, but planned hashtags and hashtags that with a directed effort can actually be quite valuable. Here's another trick. Let's take our content that we want to share, but share it as a story. So here it is. And what you can do is click on this sticker here, and you can also hashtag your stories, right? So I'm going to hashtag this Windsor, Ontario. All right, so there's Windsor, Ontario. But here's the thing. Maybe I want to hashtag this with like 50 different things so that I can get it out to a lot of different places and a lot of different hashtags, but it starts to look tacky, or your image is covered with these. Something that people don't realize about hashtags is that you can actually shrink them. You can just keep shrinking them until they literally don't even exist. So that hashtag is still attached to this photo. I'll just share it as a story right now. So when I search for stories in the hashtag, let's go back to Windsor, Ontario, the Windsor, Ontario hashtag. So now when I click on stories from Windsor, Ontario, it'll take a minute to come up, but it will present itself there. So it's a way to kind of just put yourself into the fray. And that's a really quick way to do it. And you can do the same thing if you were trying to, just pull up any picture or whatever. You can shrink things down, add a geotag, add a location, but don't ruin the aesthetic of your image. You can hide them. You can put your picture over top of it. Oh, this one, you can't put it over top, so we'll just shrink it down until it's hardly visible at all. So you could put like 50 little mini hashtags. Actually, I think there's a limit of like 20 hashtags that you're allowed to do. But yeah, that is a great way to start getting yourself out to a larger audience. Start putting yourself in the fray of a larger audience. So the next point, and so that's how you go fishing. That's how you go hunting for humans who may be interested in your city or not in your city. Maybe you have your art or your band set up on an e-commerce site. Start clicking through locations in other cities. Start geotagging your posts to be in a location other than where you actually live, so that your content is getting out to an audience in that place. And you can strategically do that as well. Like if you are on tour, now I know touring is not really happening right now, but it will again one day. If you are on tour and you're coming to a city, well, maybe we want to, I'm going back into the share screen here, just so that I can really show you how I would do it. So I would search, let's say we are playing in London, Ontario. So I'm going to go London, Ontario. This is a week before my show. So London, London, Ontario. And I'm going to start introducing myself to people in London. We've got a show coming up. And then you make sure that your most recent post is coming to London this Friday. So the night before your show or 2 days before your show, you kind of just start scrolling through here, liking and commenting. You know, I don't know how big the scene is in London for music, but let's say London music scene, and let's go to tags. Okay, it's got 55,000 posts in it. So you would assume that people who tag their posts with London music scene are interested or participate in the London music scene. So it might not be a bad idea to start clicking around in there, finding people who share stuff similar to yours, or just anyone randomly who lives in London. But the one thing we know for sure is that these people are in London. They wouldn't have really hashtagged their stuff. Again, now that I'm thinking about this, I'm looking at the related ones. This might be London, UK instead of London, Ontario. So do a little research on your hashtags. Anyhow, that can be a great tool for you. And I think that it's something that's completely worth doing. And that goes for essentially anything, whether you're on tour, whether you had an exhibition coming up, any sort of way that you wanted to engage with a new audience in a new geographic location, you can find them. Maybe there's an art gallery that you would dream to show your art at, or there's a music venue that all of your favorite bands play at. Well, then search that venue or art venue and start looking at the pictures that people post from there, because the people who post pictures and geotag it and hashtag it that way are obviously interested in the type of art that is exhibited there. And if that's akin to the type of work that you're doing, then great. You're really isolating and finding a new audience. And it's a huge tool. So use groups, use hashtags, join in the conversation. My next point was to say, fill your feed, because of course you have your business page, your like page, your Twitter, your Instagram that you run for your brand or your art project. Make sure that you're not just following things willy-nilly to make you laugh. If you want that, do that on your personal page to keep yourself entertained. What I do on my Instagram, on my business Facebook pages, is that I follow pages that are going to inspire me, pages that I am impressed by so that I can draw some influence. I like to follow pages that offer really good resources. I like to learn about what's going on in social media and what's happening. There's plenty of people who host accounts with tips on social media every day. So while you're on your social media feed and you're scrolling around through the news feed, that the information that you're receiving is going to be from industry leaders. It's going to be from people colleagues of yours, so you can know what people who work in your field are up to. They're going to be maybe your diehard fans, so that you can like the things and engage with the content that they're putting out there as well. So find those people who inspire you. Find those people who are running pages that you aspire to have yours look at and take influence from them. Doesn't mean you're copying them, doesn't mean you're stealing their ideas. You're looking at what they're doing, looking at something that you appreciate and say, how can I take what they're doing and mold it towards a way that's going to be valuable towards myself. Another thing, I guess, as we talk about having all of these different social media platforms is, how do you manage them all? There's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's Twitter, there's TikTok, there's Snapchat, there's YouTube, there's LinkedIn, and a dozen more after that. In a perfect world, you would be creating high quality, engaging content for every single one of those platforms. You'd be putting out new content every single day. But that's just not realistic for a lot of people. A lot of people and brands that operate on that scale on social media, they're employing a team of content creators to do it for them. So what my general advice is when you're deciding what platforms to be on is look at where that platform is driven and what that platform is driven towards. Twitter, I think, would be a great place for a poet or a writer because it is text-based. Instagram, of course, is a no-brainer for a photographer and a videographer and musicians as well. I mean, every platform can be used and utilized by any medium of art, any type of creator, but they're only as good as how much you can keep up with them. So for my most recent project, I decided that I would have a Facebook and an Instagram, and that's it. And I'm going to run those ones, and I'm going to run them well. Once the project launches, we'll be posting there every day, but I do not have the wherewithal or the energy to keep up with putting out YouTube videos every 2 or 3 days for people. Maybe one day, maybe when I'm ready, I'll start tackling that side of social media. But for now, I'm going to stick to the two that I know well and that I have the ability to consistently provide quality content. So there's nothing worse than landing on a page, whatever page it is, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, so on and so forth, where people land on your profile and you haven't made a post in weeks or months. People have to look at their profiles, their Instagram profiles, their Facebook profiles as essentially a constantly updating business card. It's when you Google search the name of your band or the name of your business, you know, the social media platforms, the streaming platforms, the places online that you house your content are the ones that are going to come up first. And if somebody clicks through on your Twitter page and you haven't tweeted in, you know, the last 18 weeks, I would say that that Twitter page isn't worth having because it almost delegitimizes your work and what you're doing. It makes it seem like you have nothing going on. Meanwhile, your Facebook and Instagram pages could be highly active and having a lot going on, but that's not what they click through on. So if people are going to click through on you, you want them to be landing in a place that seems at least somewhat active. Maybe you're on vacation, you can't keep up with it quite as well, you're not posting daily. Try to make sure that you sneak a post in once every 3 or 4 days or once a week, or pin a post to the top of your page saying, we're on vacation. But I would argue that if you're on vacation in an exotic place or somewhere different than usual, well, then bring a couple things along with you, whether it's, you know, some art supplies to do a small piece of work while you're out there, or if it's your acoustic guitar so you can play a song in a forest or wherever you're camping or traveling to. That's a great opportunity to create content. So social media is a 365-day job. It never really stops. So every opportunity, anything you do is an opportunity to create content. Maybe you're a musician, you put out a new record and you're dropping off copies down at Dr. Disc. Take a picture of Dr. Disc. Take a picture of Liam, the guy who owns Dr. Disc, holding your record. Use that as a post. Hey, we really appreciate local record stores. Tag Dr. Disc in the post so they know you shared it. Maybe they'll share it too. They have 5,000 followers. You only have 500. if even 1% of their 5,000 followers decide to follow through and click through on your page, well, hey, now you've got an extra 50, 60 followers. And that's how you grow your audience. Engage with people, get out into the world, tie yourself in with the other brands and social media entities that you're a part of. Maybe there's a printing company who does all your prints for you. Tag them in the post. Make a little quick video story about going to pick up the posters for this week's show or next week's show. It might seem silly, but these little things all add up to a really robust and engaging and consistent social media presence. And then I guess the last thing that I'll talk about now is just ads. And this goes back to making sure that you have your Facebook and Instagram pages, especially optimized as business pages. A little bit of money goes a really, really long way. I'm going to go back into screen share right now and just quickly show you how far money can go on. We got Freddie Gibbs up here. Here we go. So let's go back to Tragic Fate and click through and just find a recent post. I'm not actually going to buy the ad. We'll let it load here. I'm not actually going to buy the ad, but I'll do a little bit of clicking through to show you how far your money can go. We're just going to scroll down a bit. Let's just find the first actual thing that I might consider advertising. All right, here's a garbage can I painted last week, trying to convince people maybe to hire me to paint another one. So I want to boost this post. I click boost. Now I'm in here. Now, what do we want? What kind of results are we looking for here, right? We want to get more people to react and comment on this post. Okay. Do we want to connect and chat with potential customers? Let's not do that. Let's stick with getting more people to react, comment, share, because right now we don't have many likes on this page. I'm going to go back here, choose a link for this button. Okay. When they click through, they're going to click through to my website, which redirects to my Facebook currently. Let's think about an audience. And you see some audiences that I built for other people, but let's create a new audience. And we're going to call this Tragic Fate Local. So this will be my local audience that I'm going after for just Windsor. And I'm going to say, you know, maybe you're a fashion designer and you only make women's clothes. Maybe you want to gear your advertisements towards women. You know, maybe you only make men's clothes. You want to gear to, but I make stuff for everybody. So I'm just going to go with all. I'm going to go ahead and say that my stuff is probably of a bit more interest to younger people. I think I'm going to stick with, let's call it 18 because my brand is a little crassy and sassy. So I don't want kids to get it. But I do think that anyone over, let's say even 45 is probably not going to be as interested in my content as maybe people who are within 10 years of my age. So let's just, I'm 36, so let's call it 46, and let's call it 26. A lot of my art and stuff has references and stuff in it, and those references are very much within my generation, my scope of life. So maybe people 20 years younger than me are not necessarily gonna get it, but people within a 10-year range, either way, are probably more likely to get my jokes and associate and connect with my artwork than people outside of that range. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the case. You could just go and try to, and depending on what you're trying to promote, you could essentially, you know, just choose the widest range. But let's just, for example, call it that. I don't want to go to the United States. I want to go to Windsor. We are going to use the map function here to zoom in on Windsor. All right, so here's Windsor, and I am going to drop a pin. So I'm going to drop a pin just in the middle of the county here. And here we go. So we've defined now anywhere from this center point in a 10-mile radius, and you can go all the way up to 50. So it'll show you how big the range is there. I'll zoom out a little bit just so you can see. Okay, now we're getting into a much, let's call it, maybe we'll call it 15. Okay, so 15 miles from that center point that I just chose covers most of the county. Let's say we're advertising locally. I'm doing a pop-up or I'm doing an event. And I mean, the advertising makeup of events, posts, any of these things is largely the same. So don't worry about what it is you're trying to promote. Okay, so we're looking, this is good. Demographics, interests, behaviors. Okay, let's browse. Let's see demographics, education, financial, education level. I don't know. Some of my stuff is kind of brainy. I want them to be at least a high school grad, or they might not get it. Let's take some other suggestions. Let's get out of education. And let's maybe say art. Okay, visual arts. So now I'm further refining my audience here. I'm saying visual arts. Okay. So my potential audience size is about 65,000 people. I want them to be a high school grad. I want them to be interested in visual arts. I want them to be within a 15-mile radius of the location that I chose. Let's go ahead and save that. And now we'll get into the money side of it. Now, this is where like Facebook and Instagram are really powerful because they're fantastic advertising engines. So I can say, okay, I want to let people know about this for the next 10 days. I want to spend 50 bucks, not even a lot of money. Let's just put it up 50, please. Okay, there it goes, 50, not that much money. This post now will reach at an absolute minimum 1,100 people a day for 10 days straight, all the way up to 3,000 people a day. So my $50 could potentially have me reaching an audience of 30,000 people. So the further you define your audience and the further that you kind of tailor what you're looking for, you can really start to pinpoint what people are looking for, and you can find a new audience, and you can find people to buy your product, and you can drive people towards your performances or exhibitions by taking the time to build some advertising. And I think it might be somewhat foreign to a lot of artists and musicians to buy Facebook ads, and it's the easiest thing to do. And I think there's a disconnect in the sense that a lot of people think that Facebook ads are for big businesses only. They're not. They're for anyone, any business of any size to use. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, they do more damage for you the smaller your brand is, because you have so much more growth potential. So because your audience is small, $50 for you is going to go further than $50 would go for a business that already had tens and tens of thousands of followers, because the metrics, $50 there when you already have 50,000 fans, just it's not going to get pushed out widely enough. So early on in your brand is a really great opportunity to take advantage of advertising on Facebook and Instagram. And I would, certainly encourage you to consider making those type of investments. And I would say it's akin to making posters for your next performance or exhibition. If you're going to spend $20 on posters or $40 on posters, maybe spend $20 on posters and then $20 on Facebook ads, and see what they do for you. See what your reach is. See if you've got more people clicking like or interested on your event pages, or engaging with your content, and making sure, like, if you're selling something, we're going to get into this in a really big way next week's seminar, which is merchandising and monetizing the artworks that you're creating, um, again, you want all roads to lead back to that potential purchase. So if it's something, a product that you're trying to sell, then at that point, you would really want to be making sure that you have a product link so that within the caption of your ad, people can click through and just buy it right away, or click through and buy their tickets to your performance. Um, it can really go a long, long way for you. So that pretty much wraps up all of my planned content. I will now open things up in the chat. If you want to type a question, if you have any questions or any follow-ups to any of the things that I spoke about, I would say feel free to type them in to the little message box here, and I will try to address them as best I can. And I would say for anyone watching on YouTube, because this will be posted to YouTube later, feel free to comment on this YouTube video, and I will at some point respond to you and fill you in on whatever question that you have. So I'll just give it a couple minutes here for anyone in the group who has any questions. Feel free to type them out now. I'll just give you a minute or two to do so. Otherwise, that pretty much concludes this edition of the Open the Floodgate Seminars. I really want to thank I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I've got somebody asking what the safety vest is for. That is actually worn by my my assistant, Bonesy. He is a life-size skeleton who I keep in the office here to keep me company when I'm designing. And yeah, he's obviously been through a lot, so we're trying to keep him as safe as possible. But I'll just take it from there. Okay, curious to think if a website is needed for a visual artist. My rationale is to have an online portfolio. Do you think that's important? Yeah, I think that a website is a good thing to have. What I would say my advice for websites is to keep it basic, because most people are engaging with content now via social media. I think that having a website maybe isn't quite as important as it used to be, but maybe I'm saying that wrong. Having a website is still very important, but it does not need to be as robust as it used to be. I would actually say that really involved websites, if you are a visual artist, I actually ran into a really great website. Rosina Ricardo is a really great local artist. She made herself a really nice website that is essentially just one page. It's got a click through on images of art that she made. It's got her contact information. It's got a brief CV. And then it's just got links to her social media pages where the content is being updated regularly. The problem with websites that I find is that you're like, it's just another thing to constantly update. So I like to keep my websites simple. Like my website for Tragic Fate that I'm actually in the process of building right now and that'll be launching in July is going to be e-commerce driven, so that when people click through on their Facebook or Instagram, if they're interested in purchasing something, that there's not a lot of hoops for them to jump through, that the landing page is the page with all of the items that they can buy so that they can place an order. So I would say if you're looking at monetizing your art and you're selling it online, I would say make your website e-commerce driven. Doesn't mean you can't have an about page or a gallery or some extra pages, but I would invest less in having a really, really amped up website and invest more in advertising on Instagram and Facebook to drive people to a website with an e-commerce platform where they can make some purchases. I hope that answers things for you. Most of the people in this group, I will say, I know personally as well. So I give you the personal invitation to call me or reach out to me after this meeting, as it is going to end in the next 8 minutes or so. Okay, good. Okay, I'm glad that helps. Uh, um, so yeah, any other questions or thoughts? Again, if something comes to you after the fact, do feel free to message me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, or give me a call, and I'd be more than happy to chat with you about some things that are more specific. Best time of day to post? That is a really good question. I guess that depends on where your audience is. If your audience is a global and you have followers following your brand or your project all over the world, then pretty much you can post any day. Let's say the bulk of your followers are from Windsor. Well, then you definitely want to post Eastern Standard Time, in our time zone, and you want to post, when do you think people are generally awake? Let's say 8 a.m. to midnight. Some people are obviously up later than that, but I would say that most people are, on their phones. Some people have different thoughts about this in terms of like post in the morning before everybody else posts, and it'll be the first thing everybody sees. What I would say is start to try out posting at different times. You may find that your audience is online at a certain time of day more often than others. There are actually some tools that are available to you. I'll go to the share screen again. And Facebook is challenging because they oftentimes change there. I'm going to cancel out of this ad. Yes, cancel my ad. You can go into your settings of your page info, page visibility. Where are we going to find it? Preferred page audience. There's a way to look at your audience that you already have. And if your audience is small, it's gonna take some time for this to be as well developed as it could be. I'm trying to click through here and find it. People in other pages, page info. There is somewhere in here, I'm just digging for it now, is that it will tell you when your audience is most commonly online. So here's people who like my page. All right. Where is it? Maybe it's in Insights. Edit page info, settings, more. Insights. Under more. So when you click through here, here's it'll give you all sorts of different numbers on your posts, how much engagement they got. And I'm pretty sure there is a spot in here, export data, followers. Okay. And when you go in here, where your page follows happened, so this will start to give you some ideas of where your followers are coming from and when they're engaging with your posts. I haven't posted enough, but once you start posting more on a regular basis, the more you engage with the system, the more information that it can provide to you. Because my page is so young and I only have like 50 followers so far, it's not giving me a lot of data to show you on your end. But when you click through all of these insights, this is good stuff to look at so that you have an understanding of where your people reached. Okay, so here now this is giving me a little bit idea of my audience a little bit more. So 35% of my audience currently, even though my audience is small, is women. 62% is men. I was right about the age range, and I hadn't even looked at this yet. So that's positive to know that I kind of know what I'm talking about in terms of where my audience is at and where I expect my audience to be. You can see the bulk of my audience here is that 25 to 44 ratio, which makes a lot of sense based on the content that I'm creating. But there is, and I can't remember, it might be in under reach here. And again, recommendations, it'll give you recommendations on times of days to post and how much to post. Like there's all sorts of information in here, and the more you look at it and learn about it, it's going to give you kind of more perspective on where your audience is, and what time of day most of them are online. I know it's still there, but Facebook is annoying in the sense that they revamp their user interface on such a regular basis that sometimes something that you always knew where to find is not where it used to be kept. But there is a feature there that you can click through and it'll say, most of your users, out of your 500 people who follow your page, most of them are online, at 11 a.m. That doesn't mean that you exclusively post at 11 a.m., but it's good knowledge to have. I'll say that. It'll give you somewhat of an idea. Mind you, if you're somebody who is trying to build an e-commerce following and to have people following you in different locations, then I would start posting stories and doing that hashtag technique and do geotagging in different cities and potentially posting in their time zone. So being cognizant of, if you're posting at midnight here in Canada, that it's actually, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. in Australia, maybe for whatever reason. And that's where looking at these insights gives you a lot of help too. So like, let's go back into the insights and just go ahead and say, like, where are my followers from? Where was it? They gave us followers, actions, page views, reach. There was one there that showed you like a list of countries. So, I mean, you never know where things are going to pick up. So you might notice, you're like, holy smokes, I have 500 followers in the UK for some reason. Maybe people in the UK are starved for the type of content or the type of product that you are providing. Maybe that means that's an audience that you can start to target with geotagging, with hashtags, with paid ads. I mean, that's the other thing about those paid ads. I was creating a paid ad to target a local audience. There's absolutely no reason why you can't create a paid ad and target an audience in Australia, an audience in Africa, an audience in China. I mean, be cognizant that there may be a language barrier between you and them, but luckily English is the most spoken language in the world, so at least some of the audience is going to be engaging with it. And I think once you start advertising internationally, you can set your stuff up to engage with people who use certain language interfaces. So Instagram or Facebook knows that my Instagram is set up for English, so anybody who's in, let's say, Spain, who identifies as an English speaker first, you can set up your advertisements to directly go to the English speakers in Spain, as opposed to the Spanish speakers in Spain, so that when you're engaging with your audience there, you're taking, as good advantage of them as you can. So yeah, I hope that gives some insight in terms of time of day. But I mean, like I was saying at the beginning, I think that consistency is everything. And consistently posting, and if you make it a part of your daily routine, that you're going to post at, 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. daily, I don't think that's a bad idea. It's an easier way to maybe keep yourself on track. So you go, okay, you set an alarm for yourself or something that reminds you, I should put something out there, whether it's a story or a post or I live and actually plan out posts in a day book. So this is like a page a day planner that I use to like literally map out, I want to post about this on this day. This is the day that this project is going to launch. I'm doing this on that day. So the more you plan ahead, it makes it a little bit easier to be like, okay, well, I don't want to post too many photos in a row. And a lot of times what I do, especially for clients, is I create a calendar. So I'll grab up a calendar, like open myself up like a monthly spread. and even just come up with like a week-long idea. So I've got my, my calendar here, and I'll just be like, okay, on Mondays, we share photos. On Tuesdays, we share graphic design. On Wednesdays, we share this. On Thursdays, we share that. So you don't actually have to have necessarily your content exactly what you're going to post, but it just keeps you on a good track in the sense that you go, okay, so that you don't get trapped in, I haven't posted a picture of myself in 6 weeks and I've only posted pictures of my product. It just reminds you, oh yeah, maybe I should do a selfie or like a more humanized type of post at least once a week. And I'll do one graphic design thing once a week. I'll do one behind the scenes thing once a week, and you come up with 7 different things. There's your weekly schedule. This is what you do on Mondays. And then you start expanding from there. Okay, well, on Monday mornings, I'm doing a graphic design piece. On Monday nights, I'm doing a quick little 5-minute Q&A live video. On Tuesdays, I'm doing this in the morning. I'm doing that at night, And again, I'm just spitballing the time of day and the content that you're going to put out there. Again, all of that is completely up to you. But having a roadmap and a calendar for yourself is going to go a long way to just keep yourself on track and remind you that you should be diversifying your stream. Yeah. So I will say if there's any other questions, I'll take one more question, but if there are no more questions, then I will end the meeting. And thank you all for joining. And it seems that there are no more questions. So thank you so much for tuning in. Very happy to have you guys all here with me, and I hope you got some information that you can make use of to expand your projects. And if you want to have a further conversation with me, I am just a message or a phone call away. So everybody, you take care, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Alrighty, bye now.